Hey guys, good evening. It is Simon with ToughTrader.com doing it's not really a trade review. We're adding a new tool to the making decision process in the room. And I wanted to go over it in kind of detail. And there's a couple aspects to the tool that'll be helpful to us overall in both trend days and non-trend days. And in particular, when we find turning points and the algo triggers us into trades, whether we really want to press that trade or scalp in and out of it relatively quickly, right? And I'm going to use today's examples as two prime examples of how it could have helped our decision making. So what I'm talking about here is the cumulative delta bar down here. And basically it shows, so there's two key components to cumulative delta, right? So A, it shows the overall net, whether they're buyers or sellers are in control. And, but it's not quite as responsive. So we are not trading off the cumulative delta. The cumulative delta is kind of like a compass on a map, and it kind of gives us a general heading of which way we're heading, but it's not specific. However, just like with using a map and the compass, if you wanted to go east, you want the thing generally heading east. Now you'd be maybe hitting a little northeasterly, you may be hitting a little southeasterly, right? But you generally know that you need to be heading in an easterly direction, and the compass tells you that, right? So we have several tools that help us out. Now, the question comes is why do we need the tool, or why does this help us out? For a couple of reasons. So let me kind of go through it step by step. If you look at our day today, guys, from the start, now we had a fantastic trade location. We got long market this morning at 27.19 right here, right? And that was fantastic. What was the problem with that trade? The problem with this trade was I was out of that trade completely by 27.24, and there was much more space to go around it. And then there's a flip side to that coin. Late in the day, after non-farm payrolls, I took a short that I wish I had not taken, and I'm going to show exactly where I took that short. I took that short at 27. I want to say it was 27.30.50, right here off this algo signal. Okay, so that trade, even though I put the stop in correctly, resulted in a loss. And so that's all right. That's part of the business, and you make money and you lose money, and that's all good. That's all part of the process. It's not a big deal. But can we improve that process is the question. And so what you'll notice is that when you go look at the deltas, what you'll notice is, number one, the delta, we were kind of neutral. It wasn't overwhelmingly negative or positive when we took the short. When we took the long, however, delta was buried way down there. As a matter of fact, it's safe to say that delta was at the low of the day, right? So that becomes important to me because when we get to lows and when we're stretched, we know that's the best chance for the market to rebound. However, if you'll follow this with me here, okay, guys, so remember we were hunting the long, right? And so we have let me go through the normal clues. We have our speed bars. Those are the blue colored bars that were telling us, hey, be aware, be ready. We are close to getting a potential turn back to the upside, right? Secondly, we got our stars. This is exactly where we went long, 27.1950 to 27.19 right in here, because this bar right here, and I'll draw an arrow right on top of us, this clued us in to the long, just like these were cluing us into the short. These were cluing us in to the long, right? We didn't take the short up here, but we did take the long. Now, just stay with me for just a second so you can follow this. See that before we got the clue for the long trigger, that on this bar, on the bar that actually triggered above, we were able to get above and close above. This is a 20-period moving average, right? It's a special moving average, exponential moving average. But it's a moving average. We pop above it, and you can see that we started to consolidate above that moving average. Now, that doesn't mean anything other than when we press to the low right here, we attempted to press a new low in delta. We're unable to do so. That's on the bar prior. And then we started consolidating, and we were looking, remember, we were looking in this area because we knew the auction was complete to the downside, right? That was one of the key reasons why we were focusing on that 27.18, 27.19. Now, we got all this right, and we got the pop, but this is where we were coming out of the trade. Right here at 27.24 is where I closed the trade out, right? But if I look at the move here, look how strong the move is on delta off the lows. It's really very, very strong, right? We would actually expect to get a continuation to the upside in this case. And if you'll notice, even when delta moved lower, price still stayed higher, and the trend line itself stayed green all the way until this point right here. This is the first time we turned underneath that bar at 27.33. This is the first time we get and within that process, even though we got the speed bars to the short side, so for those of you who are viewing and are not in the room on a regular basis, you're welcome to email me at tradertough@gmail.com to get a pass into the room. But you'll understand these are speed bars, and they indicate a potential change in direction. But what we need is a star to print on the upside of these bars to tell us that the market's going to roll to the downside. But let's follow through. Let's stay through with the thought process all the way to its end, right? When you look at this push to the upside, right? The first time that we get a clue that things may be changing come with this speed bar and this close underneath, and then the trend line turned red. Look at the difference in the exit. We're talking about a difference in exit from 27.24 to potentially pushing that trade all the way up to 27, let's call it 30 to 32. Maybe we didn't get the high, but we got darn good location, right? And I will take that every single time. I think that is fantastic location, and that makes all the difference between turning it into a 5-point trade, which we did right here, versus turning it into a 10 or 15-point trade, which I very much would have liked to have done. Next, I want to slide you over. If you look this morning, remember we were trying to figure out, hey, is it gap and go, or is it open drive? Is it open drive and push lower? So look right off the open, right? Before we even came into the open, right? Even though delta's positive, here, we're already trending down on delta as we're coming in. Secondly, before we get to 8:38 in the morning, delta's already gone to a negative and below zero, right? So why is that important? Let me show you. Okay, so there's the negative delta where we've really established below on a negative delta. And so the first thing that we want to ask, or the first thing I'd want to ask is, and if you'll stay with me, this will take a couple minutes to explain, but I promise you it'll add significantly to the quality of our decision making in the room. So the first thing I'd want to ask is, well, when we have trend day up, does cumulative delta get below zero? So I'm going to go to our last trend day up. I believe that would have been here. No, not quite. Let's find it here. Actually, let's just change this to a RTH really quick. We can make it easy on ourselves. It'll be easier, obviously, once we're in the room because we'll know where we are relative to the open. But when you're working with a 24-hour chart, so you'll see here, see how we opened and we were above zero. We slipped below. We try to get above zero again, and it's just slowly melting down. So the first question I had was, well, on trend day up, is that normal, right? So when I go back and look at my last trend day up, right? So if you'll look here, see how we gapped up here? We gapped, and see how delta never gets below zero. It holds the entire way through. Now, eventually, right, we do roll to the downside on this particular day, right? But you'll notice it's long after the open, and what we get is with delta holding above zero, we are then able to consistently drive to the upside from 27.32 to 27.41. It's an important clue in that process, right? Now I'm going to squeeze right over here. I'm going to show you the next trend day up. Again, so it's easy for us to spot. Here's my last gap. Okay, so here's my last gap. And again, you'll see we're at zero, and as soon as this punches below zero, it doesn't mean that the market rolls all the way down, right? But as soon as we punch below zero, you'll see that's where we get the push down to the downside off the open, right? And what you're going to see is when we get those strong opens, those strong drives higher. Hopefully I have one. I bet this chart doesn't go back far enough. So again, you can see from the open here, when we gap down, see how we came below zero and we can never push above zero? So basically, what I'm trying to say in a very windy and worded way is when we trend up and we gap up, that delta does not get below zero before continuing higher. It's very important to remember it's a very early clue in the day, as to whether or not we're going to be able to reverse or if we're just going to fall apart. Okay, so that's my 2 cents on that. It's very important that we stay cognizant off the open of where that is. But if you'll also look, right, so I want to point this out. See when we get towards the low, see how we've pushed all the way down here? And see how we're pushing down, we're pushing down, we're pushing down, and all of a sudden we start to get, here, I'm going to spread this out. Even on this date right here, see how you can already see that delta's starting to improve dramatically through here. We get our speed bars and see here we get a speed bar and a star push to the upside. Notice that delta stays underneath the trend line. Over here, we're above on the trend line. We get our star, and now look, so our entry on this trade, right? If we follow this star right here, is 27.2350. And before we get any clue that we should be coming out of this trade, which is really right back. Let me see this really quick. Right back over here. So this is our first clue, right? We get a red bar, closes underneath the moving average. This is the first time that we even turn red on that moving average. Notice that obviously the target here would be VWAP. Even through here, right? You can see that even if you turned and sold right through here, you're still moving from 27.2350 all the way up to 27.2850. It's a 5-point rotation to the upside. And it's the difference between taking a trade here, taking a stop, and taking your trade here and getting a beautiful 5-point move to the upside. Even before it rolled down here, you had 4 points, even before it decided to counter rotate and push back and still test. And your stop, as you all know, is 1 point behind the prior bar that triggered the entry, right? So this is the trigger, this is the fuse, this is the trigger that sets it off, right? Your stop comes right behind here. I want to know that delta is already moving in the direction that I need it to move so I can capture that P&L and push the trade easily to the upside. It won't always result in a 10 or 15 point trade, but as you can see today, if we scoot all the way back around over here, right, as you can see today, once it got above, right, it just never closed. Well, I guess it kind of poked its head below at 27.26, but it never gave any meaningful rotation back to the downside and continued pushing for a 10 or 15 point trade. We just nailed that low. It's pretty much perfect work on our part, right? Now let me show you where we screwed it up and how that would have helped. So if you get to this afternoon, we are coming in after non-farm payrolls. And if you remember, we got below a key level. That 27.32 was key, and we pushed below underneath here, right? Now I short that trade right where that purple arrow is, right there. I get my signal to go short, and that's 27.30. Actually, it was worse than that because it had to be earlier. Had to be, no, that's correct. It was in this 27.32, neighborhood, I believe, if my memory serves. And I may be wrong on that, guys. You can correct me in the morning, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct, right? If you'll look at that, what you will see is that when we got that signal, we were nowhere close to getting underneath that moving average. Why does that matter? Because it then proceeded to grind and grind and grind all the way into the close, all the way up to 27.39, right? There was no way to get a winning trade out of that trade. And if you look, even though I didn't get triggered over here, that I simply waited until we had closed underneath the moving average and then looked to establish a short. So understand this didn't trigger. It never got a star, right? This is the last trigger for a short. And the mere fact that we were above this 20-period moving average on the delta, and remember, this is delta on a very small time range, 1.5. It still set us up. It just would have never set us up to get to the short side, right? And what you'll see is at the end of the day, when we're getting these long indications here at the very end of the day, right, we were pushing back above delta. And additionally, even when we were up in this area, we were just shy of pushing positive on the delta readings. Long story short, I really should have been able to sidestep that short in the afternoon, and this would have helped us do that, right? So it's just an additional tool in the tool shed to help us make good decisions. I want to see us above that 20-period moving average when we're taking trades, or very close to getting immediate confirmation that we're going to be able to move above that 20-period moving average when we get into that trade, so that I can take advantage and get paid, right? And so the whole room can take advantage and get paid. So long story short, when we're trending in one direction or another, all deltas will be below 0. And you can see, I want to step back here for a sec. See how here earlier, I wanted to short going into, if I for some reason wanted to short coming in to this particular trade. See here how we are getting the star print right here, and we're right on top of just being able to turn red right here. So when this bar completes, this moving average is turned red, and we are below that moving average, right at that moving average, and we actually have a pretty good shot of getting follow through to the downside. I want to see just the opposite when I get long. Now, I'll grant you, I didn't get triggered to the long side this afternoon, but what this would have kept me out of immediately is once I saw this, right, I would have known immediately, don't even bother trying to short all the way through here. It would have been a very difficult trade. And so when that trigger sets up, see how it's nowhere close to touching that moving average? I would have known, hey, hands off, stay away. There's no need to trade in this area. And it would have stayed me a stop this afternoon, right? As you push forward, you can see it just never developed, right? So that was very frustrating. I like making money. I like nailing the lows like we did today. I hate getting stopped. And so this is just a further push. I've already been looking at this for a while, and this is just a further push into getting confirmation that we are leaning the correct way and that we have the opportunity to make the money that we know is available out of those locations. Anyways, I will talk to everyone in the morning. I hope this helps. If anyone in the room has questions, please hit me in the morning. Again, if you'd like to join us and see what we're doing in the room, hit me at tradertough@gmail.com. I'll be happy to extend you a 5-day pass. Hope everyone has a great night. I hope everyone traded well. Beautiful long today. I'd like to take back that short in the afternoon. And so it's not a bad thing. By the way, the loss isn't like I'm trying to be, there's no way to be perfect in this deal, right? All you can do is set up over and over again and hope to make the best trading decision possible. And that's what you're doing. We're making the best trading decision possible, and we're gathering as much information as we can. But once you're done with that, you've got to leave it alone and go, hey, I made the best decision. It's either going to stop me or it's going to pay me. Anyways, that's my 2 cents. Have a great afternoon or evening, guys, and I will see everyone in the morning. Good night.